All right, welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today I have TJ with us, and TJ is, well, you're closely associated, you could say, with the traditional Bowhunter magazine.
Traditional Bowhunter magazine.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what it
so,
is.
what's your background there? How'd you get involved?
Oh, my background is in avionics technology. I worked on military aircraft for a number of years, and then I went to work for the FAA and did a lot of things for them. Worked for AF1 back in Washington, D.C., but out of Seattle area. And
Okay.
so I worked at converting almost all of the air route traffic control centers in the United States. I shouldn't say that, a good chunk of them into from analog, magnetic tapes to digital. And that was the last project I had, besides certifying all the communication systems for DIA before they shut down Stapleton in Denver. And that was my last job sometime back in the early 90s. And in 96, I walked away from the feds after 17 years to actually run the magazine. So the background is that I was always strong in English. I think I get worse as I go a little older.
Yeah.
Spelling really got bad after reading a lot of bad stuff from people. But and I sold some pieces way back when. But we were starting to build a traditional club here in Idaho way back when, back in the 80s, and we didn't have one. I just had a state organization, which I was one time I'm the past vice president of the Idaho State Bowhunters. And so we were still working on that. And in the meantime, I had this idea about doing a newsletter for the organization. So, I had a computer, I think it was a Mac Plus, those little tiny things, if you remember,
Oh yeah.
way back when.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is in like 86, sometime around then. And the more and more when we got, to talking, I had this idea. It was just that, there was an old Hewlett Packard commercial at one time back in the 80s. And some guy was, he just like walking down this hall and he had this idea for something. And he just said, what if? Well, I was taking a shower one night and I thought, what if I made this into a 4-color, on newsstand magazine? Because we were not being recognized or even catered to with any of the other bowhunting magazines. Bowhunter, which I wrote some articles for, was Bow and Arrow Hunting, which is now defunct, and Peterson's Archery. They changed it to Peterson's Bowhunting after that. And I talked to Marion about possibly doing a column for Bowhunter, and he said, well, there's really not that much interest in it. So I said, fine, then, I will do something on my own. So it kind of started like that. And at that time, there was a bunch of us that our club had 500, members here, the Treasure Valley Bowhunters, and mixed group. And there was, at one time there was 1 or 2 people shot traditional, and pretty soon there's 30, 50 people shooting traditional. And, and then, what we did on Friday night is down the hill from where Larry and I lived, there was an indoor range, an archery shop. And we would go down every Friday during the off season and winters, and we would shoot. Well, it eventually got to where I was taking down my old slide projector. I don't know if you ever see those manual ones. You got to pull it back, click it, and push it in. And we had all these slides that we had picked up and other people's of wild game, different animals from all over. And so we'd hang up a white sheet down inside there, at about 15 yards, 20 yards. And then we'd put up the slide and shoot arrows at it. Okay. And it was something that was fun. This was before dart system was ever made,
Sure.
any of that stuff. We were doing it long before Jay decided to build the dart system. And it was it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but it got to where we got to the point where after several months, we were setting it up and having someone man the projector. And we got to the point to where, boom, it would come on for, basically start about 5 seconds. And you had to pull an arrow out of your quiver, knock it, and shoot, and then the picture would go blank.
That's cool.
Then you'd put it back on when everybody's done shooting, and you could see where you shot. And this went on for a long time. And then in the spring, the owner said, well, a bunch of his friends wanted in. They wanted to come do that. And I said, well, but they wanted us to leave it up, and they wanted to use their sights. And I mean, it's kind of dumb to, at 20 yards indoors, here's a picture of a mountain goat and you got your binoculars. It's like, this is, kind of ruined it for us. So we just walked away from it. But in the meantime, this happened, it was probably late November, early December of 1988. And I had this idea. And so a bunch of us, after we were done, we'd all go down to the Leader House, which was a couple blocks away, and have beers. And so different beers, all kinds of weird stuff from around the world. And so this one night, it was snowing really bad. And we went down there. It was probably about a couple miles away. And I think there was 5 of us in there and drinking beer. And I had this idea. So I kind of spit it out. And boy, I tell you what, the negativity from everybody was tremendous. They're like, oh, you'll never succeed. That's been tried. You'll fail, whatever. And and then, I'm going, that's kind of weird, so I felt kind of dejected, and I was kind of, off the wall. So I said, well, I finished my beer and I said, well, I'll go home. So I went home in the snowstorm and was up the next morning about 6:30 or 7. And wife brought me a cup of coffee. I'm sitting in the front room. I'm looking up at the mountains and the ski resort. And this big lumbering body comes by the picture glass window and knocks on the door. And it's Larry Fisher. And he was with me the night before. And then one thing he did is he coughed in his beer and he said, "Oh, that's a hell of a dream, the night before." So he showed up and I said, "Hey, well, how you doing?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm not doing so good." I go, "What's the matter?" He goes, "I couldn't sleep at all last night. I was thinking about what you said. I want to do this with you," is what he said. And that's what got the ball rolling. And so I had no idea what we were going to do or how to, I had some ideas, but I said, I don't even know how to run a magazine
Right.
at all. But it can't be that hard, right? But so it was really, I gave ourselves 8 months. I went ahead January 3rd of 89. I solidified the company in the state of Idaho it was a sub chapter S. Actually, I'll take that back. It was a partnership. And the dumb thing was I got 5 other people involved. So there were 6 of us that started.
Yep.
By the time we put out the first issue, it was down to 5. Within a couple of years, it was down to 3. Through natural attrition and getting rid of the dead wood, people who weren't going to work. But so we started off in January, got some letterhead, and everybody pulled. I think we put in about $1,500 total between 6 of us overall to get going, to get, whatever software. We didn't have software at the time. Everything had to be typeset. So everything came in and we would proof it all and then take it to someone and pay to have them run. They would type out these little toilet paper rolls, right? So you'd have 2 and 3 column format. So it's either going to be 2.25 wide or 3.5 wide for text, plus the gutters. And so they would type it all for us, and we paid a lot of money for that. And then it come back, and then you had to wax stuff on these cardboards. So for every, for every 80 or 100 pages of the magazine, you have a piece of cardboard. And you would wax that text into there, and they have to be perfectly straight. You'd wax the ads in. And then I had this big stack of all this text and the picture, not the pictures. We told the pictures where they're supposed to go. Right. They all had to be scanned outside. There was no home computing at the time that could do any of this.
Hey, sorry to interrupt right now, but we got to thank a few of these sponsors that help make this show and this type of content possible. So here it is.
First up, HuntWise, our favorite phone app. You can get it on Android. You can get it on iPhone. It's the ultimate sportsman's app. It's got mapping, movement predictions, and social media content. So look them up on your App Store, Google Play, or whatever kind of phone you have.
Vortex Optics is some of the best optics in the world. All right, we use them all the time, not only for hunting, but I actually use it sometimes out on the golf range.
And in the podcast range.
And on the podcast. It's Wisconsin-based, so it's an American company. And also, they make a pretty slick clothing line. So if you want to save yourself 20% off on clothes like this, head over to their website and use the code BOWGA20 for 20% off.
Yeah, next up is Vector Custom Arrows. It's an arrow company that we really love. Again, they're a Wisconsin company. You basically go to their website, you enter in your bow specs, and they create a custom, perfectly tuned arrow that fits your needs. It's a micro diameter. It's heavy hitting. We shoot them into tons of stuff. We don't break them very much, and they're delivered right to your door. Check them out at vectorcustomarrows.com.
All right, if you didn't know already, we are Michigan guys, so we like partnering with Michigan companies. So we are proud to announce that we are partnering with Prime Archery. And believe it or not, James, you're going to be shooting a compound here.
I'm going to dabble.
He's going to dabble in the wheelie bow again. So we're both actually going to be shooting the Nexus bows that are brand new for 2021.
You're 4. On Nexus 4, I'm going to be shooting the Nexus 2.
Yep. So if you guys haven't checked these bows out, go take a look on their website. They're awesome.
Nano grip. Just check it out. The grip stays warm in your hand. Huge deal. I get cold fingers, and I'm a big fan. Looking forward to it.
If you've been paying attention to the podcast and this show, you know that we are big advocates of saddle hunting, and the best saddles that we like to use are the Trophy Line tree saddles. They are top notch. They fit really well. They're very adjustable. We've actually used quite a bit of them, and we found that trophy line is our favorite mainly because of that. And if you guys think you want to get into the saddle game this year, or if you're looking to upgrade your saddle, head over to their website, and you can save yourself 10% by using the big long code Bowga Hunting TL10.
One word.
One word, 10%. Go get yourself some discounts.
We work with another amazing Michigan company, Bivouac Bow Co., the makers of some of the finest traditional archery equipment that we've had the chance to shoot. I've been loving the mobility and the stability of their backland bow, shooting it for about a year and a half now. Huge fan. It's compact. It shoots like a longer recurve. If you want to get into traditional hunting, if you want to maybe upgrade the traditional setup you have, go to Bivouac Bow Co., give them a call, talk to Georgia, talk to Jim, and they'll hook you up with something pretty special.
We've all kind of been there. A few hard days in the woods, you're going to get a little sore. Things might not be feeling normal. That's where you can actually use something that's a pretty trendy product right now, and that's CBD. It's not cannabis, all right, so you're not going to be feeling all crazy.
It's hard to light.
This is hemp extraction, I believe it is.
It is.
It's
and this is
oil.
locally sourced, so
Locally
it's
sourced.
pure and local.
It's pretty much an oil with a dropper. You drop it on your knee and rub it in just like any other ointment. And
or any other body part that might be hurting.
Yikes. But we use it. It helps. You save yourself 10%. Go to their website. 20%.
Yeah, 20%.
20%.
Bowga.
Sorry. Bowga 20.
And now back to business.
You got to look up here.
And now back to business. So you're doing this by hand based on an idea you had that most of your friends didn't like.
Yeah.
and in a sport, you could say that wasn't, the most popular thing, especially, after hearing from a couple magazines that it's just not, people aren't as interested. So you still, despite all that, went out and started hand making these magazines.
Well, the first issue, I found out about software after that for page layout programs.
Yep.
But in the meantime, we still had to have every picture had to be scanned, drum scanned from a friend of mine that they're out of business. All those people are out of business. Those typesetters, everybody who did all that scanning, because you can scan everything, and everything's done in-house now. I mean, I do everything on a computer. I upload it. I mean, after you had those plates done, you had to take them over to somebody. They put them on a vacuum board, and they have a big still camera, and they'll shoot, 8 by 10 photos in black and whites of each of these pages. Okay, you can imagine the amount of cost for that.
Yeah.
So then I bring back 30 pounds of film and all this other crap, and it was $50 to ship all the stuff to the printer over in Oregon. And I mean, it was ridiculous what it costs. I mean, it's the amount of work, and it's changed so much now. And now I upload everything to FTP sites. There is nothing handled.
Yeah, it just goes right from the printer, right?
Well, I mean, I build it all on a computer, and I have a lot of help, but it's kind of really strange to go from manually building a magazine, which people don't understand what that's like. Everybody today is computer literate, but 33 years ago, when I started, there was none of that out there. And even then they had Quark Express, which was pretty Neanderthal compared to what it can do today. And I never did get into InDesign by Adobe, although I have it. I've been using Quark forever. It's the easiest thing for me. I know how to work it. And I've learned so much with it. It's a great program, actually. So it's nice because I can output everything to the PDF directly when I want it. I can look at everything. I can approve it. I upload it to FTP. They send me back a digital proof. Look at that. Everything's fine. And all that mailing cost went away, which was tremendous of doing all that. So that's really how it all started. I mean, we put out that first issue, it took 8 months. And I mean, we were scrapping to get that done.
Sure.
And, we didn't have any money, we were just trying to pay people $15 for an article just to try and get something.
Right.
And then, but I only decided to only do it 4 times a year. And I figured, worst case scenario, we'll go for a year. If we don't make any money, we'll fold it. No loss. And we'll have enough money to pay everybody back. After we put out the first issue, I knew it was a go.
Really?
Yeah, we sold so well. The second issue sold out. We had 25,000 printed, sold out the second issue like in no time, and I had to reprint another 7,500 just to keep it going. So the numbers skyrocketed from that. And so here we are 190 magazines later, or whatever it is, 32 years later. And, one thing that's really tough is print media has taken a huge bang, huge hit from internet because, and it's there's a lot of good things about the internet, a lot of bad things. It's really hurt a lot of magazines and really bad. Like you remember, Field and Stream was put out for 115 years, 12 issues a year, 100 and something pages. Now it's 4 times a year and it's 60 pages. And that's the same thing. Outdoor. See, Sports Afield folded. Outdoor Life's the same thing. They went to only 4 times a year.
They're
and
digital now, aren't they? Aren't they all digital?
Well, they may only be digital.
Yeah.
A lot of them, everyone's coming off the newsstand because we're being thrown off the newsstand by stores anyways. They don't want magazines anymore, and it's really not cost effective. Nobody makes money selling magazines on the newsstand at all.
Okay.
Everybody loses it, but you're hoping that your advertisement will cover it. But we started looking at those, crunching those numbers, and it was senseless to stay on there. And we've done a hell of a lot better, just going direct. And we do the printed magazine, but we also do very well in our digital magazine.
Yeah, I can imagine that's where a lot of things are headed. But I mean, so just dialing it back, talk to me a little bit about like traditional bow hunting. Because now here you are after 33 years of running the traditional archery magazine. How did you get into it? How has it changed over these 33 years? It seems like I'm seeing more of it now, but I want to know what that's looked like over that 33-year period.
Change glasses here so I can see better. Well, it's continued to grow. There was a little stagnant part for a while, but for the most part, we saw steady growth for a long time, but then the internet kind of hurt things because, as you well know, I'm going to go back. Everybody's an expert anymore, and people can put whatever they want on the internet, and they have a lot of followers and all. But there's, how many places do you have to go to find out what the truth is, what the real story is?
Sure.
I mean, you can take one subject and throw it out there online. You're going to get 6 different professionals supposedly. Yeah. And it's a mess because there's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of good information, but there's a lot of bad or misinformation out there. So you see a lot of the problem with today is that most people have the attention span of a gnat.
Sure.
And so, if you can't grab their attention within 7 seconds, they're flipping a page, or they're going to change. On your website, they're going to keep jumping around. And so the idea is, how do you keep traffic on there? Well, you have to change it up. With a magazine, though, the nice thing about that is that, and especially for advertisers, is that the magazine's forever. It's always there. We sell back issues all the time. From 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
Well, sure, we have a lot of them sold out, but we have a large percentage. I say probably 35, 40% of whatever print is sold out, but the rest of them, people buy them all the time. The problem for us is that people are calling advertisers who've been dead for 20 years, and that phone number's been 3 or 4 people. So they call, and we used to get phone calls all the time, saying, "Please take my phone number out of your magazine." I go, "It's not in there." That
is funny. Oh.
Because people buy these back issues and they see these ads and they call those people because they want that product. They don't know that they've been out of business for 30 years, 20 years, or been dead for 10 or 15 years. And I mean, it's because I go back, I look at those, I go, I probably say 80% of the people those first years, they're not around anymore, and they've been gone for decades. So that's changed quite a bit. But, print media is not going to go away. It's contracted quite a bit, but what we see is that people want that tangible object.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like me, I don't want to sit down and read an ebook. I'm tired of looking at my computer. I have a newspaper. I get newspapers. I want to read the newspaper. I want to sit down, have my coffee. I want to read some damn printed text. I don't want to look at an e-reader. I don't want to read it on the phone or on the computer. And I'm finding a lot of people are escaping that, going back to books, going back to buying magazines, buying newspapers instead of trying to go online. Number one is that half your media online is biased anyway, so you got to be careful of that. So you don't even know where to turn. But there's something tangible about having a magazine. You can hold in your hand, and even the people who do buy the digital subscription, about 90% of them also want that printed. And this is really huge for the Australians and New Zealand and people down there in Europe. is that they still want it, and it's expensive to mail that thing. My
Right.
God, it's what, about 70 something dollars a year to send 6 magazines over, and they got to go first class, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we don't make any money on that, and but they still do it because they want it, even though they have a digital subscription. They can get it on the 15th every other month. 6 weeks later, the magazine shows up after it comes across the pond, and they love it. And I see these photos from all my friends in Europe and Germany and all over the place, South Africa, and they finally came in. I'm going, cool, you got it, but they've already read it, so online. So we see that as that it is like a collector's item in that aspect. And if you go back and you look at those magazines, there's a tremendous amount of information that dates back to the 1989, and there's a lot of good information. In fact, people all the time are pulling out saying, we should, let's do another piece on this. I'm going, well, we sure can, because that's timeless.
Yeah. Just good. It's
That
good
stuff doesn't go
information.
away.
Yeah. And which doesn't change.
No, and the reason why I want to start this too, James, is that I didn't know how to make a wood arrow. I
Right.
didn't know how to make a Flemish twist string. I want to know these things. And
Sure.
the only person I knew was Ron Robinson. He passed away in '93 here, and he was our last bowyer in Boise. Old gentleman, great guy. And Rick Hinton did a piece on him. I think it was like Around the Wood Stove with Ron Robinson way back, probably 28 years ago. But, he showed me a lot, and very informative. And how to make stuff. He made his own feather burners. He made all this equipment inside this was an old whorehouse, believe it or not. And so him and his wife lived upstairs where the girls were at, and then down below he built his shop.
That's funny.
And but it was kind of interesting is that he made all of his own equipment, everything, everything. And so that I said, how do we get that information out? Because I was seeing more and more people want to shoot traditional.
Yeah.
And same thing like Larry, they were shooting compounds. And then, when he saw me with my longbow, he said, he goes out and buys a Brackenberry recurve.
Yeah.
And so he's shooting that, but he's shooting, aluminum arrows. And I'm, I finally making wood arrows. Like, I wish I could do that. Well, they keep saying that. Then pretty soon, everybody's doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it was kind of fun to see that.
Well, it's nice to have those past articles. And as I've been seeing on your website, you've been taking a lot of that just solid, foundational information and putting it online, so you can, you can quick go right to it. You know exactly what to look for, and you can kind of locate that great bit of information that you're trying to learn.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about the website is that it's slowly getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
We have a lot of it as original material. It's not in the magazines, but we do have a lot of good archival stuff of back issues and things, how-tos, bow studies and things like that. So we're adding to it all the time. So like you said, there's a wealth of information on the website, an awful lot. And we have, on average, about 11,000 unique visitors a month to the website. It's really doing very well.
Yeah, that's
no
very
complaints. Yeah, considering what the printed market's been doing. Well, the thing with that too is that a lot of it's hard to explain that. As a publisher, again, I make the least amount of money off that everybody makes. So you have a national distributor who handles getting it to the wholesalers. Well, they take a cut. The wholesalers take a cut. The store owners take a cut, plus they ask for an RDA, which is on top of that, it's a retail display allowance. You have to pay to print these. You got to pay to ship them to like Clark Distribution, and you got to pay Clark's fees to mail them out to everybody. You got to pay for the damn things coming back and being shredded. You don't make any money. You're losing $100,000 a year on the newsstand, and it's senseless. It's just it was stupid. But you realize that everyone takes their cuts. So for every dollar out of that, I'd be lucky to see 10 cents.
Sure.
And so out of for a dollar, if we're lucky. I mean, everybody takes a cut. Well, then what happened is that they want to do away with. A lot of places only want to keep the top selling 5%. Cosmo, Elle, Red Book, these ladies' magazines. And so what happens is that even though we had a sell through of something like 80%, it wasn't the 90% that they wanted.
Yeah.
And so we got cut from a lot of places. I mean, I lose 6,000 issue to issue. We lose 6,000 newsstand distribution.
Yeah, it's tough to compete with that. Just a way bigger audience. I mean,
well, the internet has allowed us to reach a lot more people, anyways. And so what happened too is that when we came off the internet, these people subscribed, which makes it better because it's cheaper for them. They get their magazines sooner. They save money, and they get it's just all around, it's a better deal.
Yeah.
So we put our money in advertising elsewhere, and outside of a lot of the markets, trying to reach fly fishermen. And I'm doing a podcast with a guy that does, what is that, Rob? I don't know what it is. He does everything. He's an outdoorsman, but mainly he's interested in my cooking, my outdoor wild game cooking.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's got a food channel, but it's outdoor. It's so he does everything. I'm looking forward to that. We had to cancel. He had to cancel last time, so that's coming up probably in the next couple of weeks.
I
We'll
think
do that.
I'm trying to think of that guy's name.
Steve, or I don't remember.
Dan? Anyways.
Oh, Food Afield by Snyder. It's some guy named Snyder. Food Afield is what it's called.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look for you. Yeah, we'll look for you for that. But I have to, I guess, for a guy who's devoted a majority or a good portion of his career to traditional bow hunting, how'd you get to be so passionate about it? Where did this come from?
Oh, well, I'll go way back.
Yeah.
My father had picked up a couple lemonwood bows when he was in Cuba a long time ago. And so when my brother and I were growing up, we had these lemonwood longbows that, we were shooting them for a while. And then Randy went off to college, and we came back we were living in the Philippines at the time. And Randy went to engineering school, and I stayed over, and we came back towards the end of the war, September of '68. We moved back to the States, which was a shock for me after living overseas my whole life. I didn't know racism until I came back here.
Where did you live for your whole life?
I was born in Hawaii.
Okay.
And then we came back to the States for a while. Then Dad took a job, ran a shipping repair facility for the Navy at Subic Bay Naval Air Station.
Okay.
During the Vietnam War from '63 to '68.
Okay.
And so, from there, and I surfed there, did a lot of diving, a lot of fishing, get in a lot of trouble.
Sure.
It's a pretty big base.
Yeah.
So, but, and so I got away from that. But then when we came back to the States, we lived in Napa Valley.
Okay.
And Dad was, working at Mare Island in Oakland. So he had a commute, but it was a safe community for us who didn't live around strange people all of our life until we came back to this country. But that was really weird. So, we had this bow, and I didn't have any arrows. So I would do chores for Mom, and I'd be able to go down to Grand Auto and buy for 25 cents. I got 3 arrows, those wooden arrows with the crimped on metal tips on the end. I don't know if you ever saw them with feathers. So I'd be out shooting those things. And I mean, we went out, there was prune fields back then. There was Napa Valley was not a winery valley. It was a fruit and nut valley. Fruit farms, everybody had peaches, walnuts, almonds, prunes. It was nothing but that. Then when grapes went from like a couple $100 a ton to $1,400 a ton, they tore all these ancient
Big switch then.
orchards out. Oh yeah. So anyways, we were out there hunting in these fields a lot. So I would go out there. I shot a couple jackrabbits, and I was always shooting at birds and stuff like that with these arrows. And so I, got back into it. I really loved it. And then I ended up going into service. Life changed quite a bit, and I traveled quite a bit.
Where did you serve? What branch?
Well, pardon me?
What branch did you serve in?
The Air Force.
Okay.
And I did 4 years active 6 reserve.
Okay.
Stationed at Mountain Home Air Force Base. And then after they wouldn't let me out, I had another job with the FAA at the time.
That's right.
And they kept me active duty, so I had to serve through the Gulf War, and then they let me out in July 91.
Okay.
So that's when I finally got out. 91, 90. I don't remember.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, not 90, whatever it was. Yeah, 90 and 91. So anyways, I took a hiatus, but then when I got stationed at Mountain Home, I got back into hunting, and I was gun hunting for a couple of years, and I hadn't been doing that for a long time. And I didn't even think about bow hunting big game. I remember people in California were doing it when I was quite younger, but I didn't pay much attention to that. And so I went up to the Oahes one day, and I shot a 4x4 buck. And it was kind of funny. On the way up there, I stopped at, my friend and I got out of my Jeep. I got out to take a leak and look at the area. And I looked down on the old road, and there's this little plastic tube, and it had a green, goofy looking bear on it. And I turned it, and it said, Bear Archery Bowstring. And I'm looking at that, and I looked around, and I'm going, bow hunting. People are bow hunting up here.
Yeah.
So
that's
I
funny.
went, so anyways, I shot the buck the next day, and then we held, my friend killed one 2 days later, and we got off the foothills. And that was the last deer I ever shot with a gun. Yeah. And that was in 1982, I think it was. something like that. And so I got back, and their Cabela's at that time put out like one catalog a year. It was this little tiny thing of maybe 30 pages. It wasn't big at all. And I mean, they had nothing in it. So they, you know, they started getting bigger every year after that. But then all of a sudden I saw, I go look at their bows, and there was no website. So you had to wait for this catalog. So I go look at their bows, and everything they have with these wheelie things, I don't know what the hell they were. I've never seen one before, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for what I knew. And so the closest thing there was, it was called a Bear Kodiak Mag. It was a wood riser, which I liked.
Yeah.
And it had a little tiny little wheel. So I bought that, and I go, well, I guess that's, you know, that's the only thing they have. I don't see recurves or longbows that I was remember. They didn't have that stuff. And there were no archery shops where I was at. There was one in Boise, and he was all compound, nothing else. And he was in an old log cabin, since been destroyed. But so I bought this thing, and it had like a burger button. I never could figure out that stupid thing. So what I did is I took it to a friend of mine, and I was in Mountain Home Air Force Base. It's 45 miles to Boise. But I used to go over there. I joined the Treasure Valley Bowhunter, so I'd have their meeting once a month. I would come back over and work with them, and end up running, you know, being vice president and other thing else, secretaries. And so I've always been active in archery, and I call it. It's not, well, long story, but it's all disorganized archery. So that's not organized. There's not, everybody's disorganized.
Right.
Everybody's, so that's my saying, is all archery is disorganized.
Sure.
So am I, so is everybody. But anyway, so I bought this thing, so I took it over to Mick's house, this guy, Mick Ashby, and I had him round it. And he goes, "You're crazy." I said, "Round that thing. I'm going to put fur on there, and I'm going to shoot this thing." So that's how I was shooting it. Well, then a guy in the club had Danny Higgs was his name. He had a bighorn recurve, beautiful bow, made by Fred Asbell, with the short handle on it, which I really loved. And so he shot that, and he's a fairly good shot. He had a really bad habit of, when he'd release, he'd snap his arm down. He used to break quivers. Believe it or not, he would break quivers from jerking his bow down when he shot.
Snapping it down.
Yeah.
Funny.
As soon as he'd release it, he'd just pull his bow down. I don't know why. It was just a bad habit. He probably missed more gigantic bucks than most of us will ever see in a lifetime. I mean, I hunted with him several times, and I'd kill deer, and he would get too excited. He finally went to a compound, which was a shame. But anyways, so I had saved up all my money to buy one from Fred. Oh my God. First one I did is I went out and bought a Bear Kodiak one-piece recurve. I ended up shooting a bear and a deer with that first year. And I said, I want something different. So I coughed up the money. It was like $450 back in 1981 or 82 to buy that was a tremendous amount of money for a bighorn recurve and a quiver and custom made and all that. It would take down limbs. And then I got another set of limbs for it. And I progressed on with that. And then eventually I started shooting longbows and loved them. And I still shoot recurves now and then. I haven't killed anything with a recurve for, oh God, I don't know. Probably I've got a blacktail up there and a big hog over there I shot in California with the recurve, and then I retired. It was a Black Widow recurve, and I retired it. I have it here now after I sold my office. I moved it to my other office here on the property. But I've always shot longbows, and I like them. And then I've just stayed with them. You know, they're not the most forgiving, but to me, I just enjoy them. It's a personal preference.
Yeah.
You know, people have their own. There's a lot of people like self bows. I like self bows too. I like recurves, but for hunting, I just prefer my longbow. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school, and I still make my own arrows. Now, good cedar's hard to get anymore. And I've built like 13, 15 dozen. I've got them stored, but I just getting ready to build 3 dozen tapered Douglas fir shafts from not Sweetland, but our boys over in Oregon. I'll figure it out here in a minute. Excuse me, I'm a little dopey today.
Yeah.
Had to get up early to go see a surgeon. I'm gonna have a hernia surgery.
Oof.
Yeah, I know, the 11th of August. So he said I'll be up in 3 weeks. I go, that's just pushing just about opening the elk season.
I was gonna say, are you gonna be mobile enough to get after it?
Yeah, I will be. Well, I had my shoulder rebuilt in February. I had all 4 rotator cuff tendons plus a bicep tendon repaired, which was major surgery. Oh. And I've got full range. I'm able to throw stuff. I can shoot my bows again in 5 months.
That's pretty incredible.
Well, I had a good surgeon, and I was very anal and religiously doing my therapy three times a day, and as expected. So when I went in 6 weeks, he goes, "You're at the 5 month level," because I was already, right now I'm able to do 30, pushing. I'm putting 30 pounds over because I have to be careful. Obviously, still another month, but
Yeah.
I lost all my muscle, the atrophy from not being able to do anything during the 8 months that it was bad. And then after surgery, I couldn't do shit for a long time. I shouldn't say that, but I couldn't do anything for a long time. And so, and it hurt for probably about 3 months, but I pushed myself through all that. So I was gaining ground every day in therapy. And one thing I found out from everybody, and even Don Thomas, the same thing, is that 90% of the failures for this type of surgery, and you have to remember too, your shoulder is not a bone on bone.
Right.
It's the easiest joint to destroy. It is the hardest one to repair.
Okay.
But 90% of people do not do their therapy religiously. And I did. I still do it, even though he says, he says 3 days a week just to keep it limber. It's fine. I'll do it 4 days,
Yep. Just keep it
and I'm
keep
back
it
to
active.
finally doing yoga, but I'm finally getting my strength back. And then this happens,
Yeah.
So anyways, the thing is this, I have a family, not sort of a reunion, but it's just my brother and my sister and our spouses are all getting together at his house over in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And we do this once a year. It's just a gathering to discuss financial issues. I am the trustee for his trust for his kids. And it's just a good time. We do some water skiing, jet skiing, and lots of wine drinking and making food and sitting out there on the dock. Yeah, it's a good time. So I'm going to do that. But then after I get back, Robin and Carrie are flying out. We get back on the 19th. The morning of the 20th, I have to get them to the airport because they're going to go back and do, then it's not the Denton Hill, but ETAR at Sawmill. So they're going to be doing that. So I had the earliest date was a week from Friday to cut me up. And I'm going, shoot. I've solidified it's the next date that they could do it is August 11th.
Yeah.
So what I'm
That's
doing
my
right
birthday.
now is well, happy pre-happy birthday.
Yeah, and happy surgery.
Yeah, well, great. So, but if they do have a dropout, I'm trying to find someone who can stay with me for 24 hours here at the ranch.
Yeah.
On the 23rd, that's wide open, and I want to get it done as soon as possible. If I had my way, I'd have it done tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today wouldn't even be a bad day because I know that there's going to be this curve. But he said 3 weeks, and I should be fine.
Okay.
Go. Yeah, he said the first week's the most. He said 6 weeks should be perfectly done. And I said, well, that gives me a chance since I have a antelope tag for the middle of September, and the season's open through September. So I still will get out there to hunt elk and deer, but I won't be able to do much until later on in the season. So
you have at least big plans later on in the season?
Well, last year I had a rough time. Robin ended up with a blood clot in the brain, and that was the opening day, or I should say September 1st. And January 30th, my friend, we were opening the season for elk. He shot a cow elk first thing in the morning down by the wallow, and the next day, my daughter Carrie calls and says, "Mom's in the hospital and she's got like a stroke." They didn't know, but it was just a blood clot. And so that my whole season was I had to stay home and take care of her. I couldn't be gone in case she had another deal. So she's 100% repaired. She's back to herself, which was good. We were lucky that it was just something. I had no idea.
Sure.
There was nothing they can tell. We did test after test after test. They don't know how or where it came from, but it's gone. So she's 100% returned. And then my shoulder acted up, and I was trying to get in for surgery, and it was a real disaster because these idiots. It's like in network, there's like 6 to 8 weeks to talk to a PA. I said, no, I want to talk to the surgeon. Mm-hmm. Oh no, you got to do this. You got to go through this crap. So I go there. They take some X-rays. She says, well, I can see there's some stuff there. I can give you some shots. I go, it's not going to work. So she gives me 2 injections in the shoulder, and I said, well, I'm going to go surfing. And she goes, well, if it doesn't help, give us a call. Well, I went down and did my surfing for 2 weeks in our annual surfing event down in California. And it really hurt it even worse because there was already torn. You should see that the pictures are really ugly. And I come back and I called for a week. And finally I got a hold of her assistant. I said, I need you guys to put me in for an arthrogram because I need to have this. It has to be done. And they said, well, it's 8 weeks to talk to the surgeon after that. I go, Jesus, what's wrong with you people? It's been 6 months. I've been trying to get something done. So I went out on network, got the arthrogram done in 24 hours. they had it read and to me that same afternoon and said that we can have the surgery the following day, but they were out of network.
Yeah.
And it was 20 something thousand dollars out of pocket.
Yeah.
And I'm going, geez, it's like, but at least I got the doctor I wanted.
Right.
And in fact, now we're friends. I went in Friday for my last visit with him, and he said, "What you doing?" All this, and found out that he's a great big bird hunter. So we're set up to go do. So he's got all these leases, and he's in a club. He says, he says, "You like waterfowl?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But it's not any good anymore." He goes, "You're part of the family now." I said, "How about we get together this fall? Let's do some hunting at my place." I said, "You're on."
That is a great. I need a doctor like that.
Oh, well, get a little of this. When I went to Carrie is the one that found out about this. I was still 6 weeks out from getting an MRI. I said I need an arthrogram from in my hospital through my network. So Carrie, my daughter, she sends me over. She takes a picture of this pamphlet. She goes, "There's this Treasure Valley Hospital downtown, and it's owned by doctors, and they have a list. Arthrogram, $500. My cost was $1,800 through my insurance.
Yeah,
and it was still 6 weeks out." So I called on a Thursday night, and she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "It's." I thought, $400 for the MRI. I said, "I need the arthrogram." She goes, "Oh, well, it's $500, and that's everything." And can you come in tomorrow? And it's Friday. I said, "No, we have Zoom meetings all day. Can I come in Monday?" She goes, "Yeah." "What time?" I go, 10:30. She goes, "Perfect." It was in 10:30. So I'm going in there, and I go to get the injection for the arthrogram.
Yeah.
And I talked to these two guys, and this one guy, he's the guy that does the injection. He comes flying in, his mask hanging on his ear. He goes, "This bother you?" I go, "No, I'm all over that shit."
Yeah.
So I'm all done with that.
Yeah.
So, and he's laughing. He's got long hair. He's got, hippie guy. He's got tie dye, skull cap on. Great guy. We're yapping. He's carrying on. And he says, "Oh, you'll feel a little pressure." And well, they go, "So what do you do?" I said, "Well, I publish a bowhunting magazine." He goes, "Bowhunting?" He goes, "Our chief executive officer here is a bowhunter." I go, "Small world, and." So he says, "Okay, bud, I'll see you later." And so we're talking. The guy said, "Okay." The two guys said, "Well, I can't wheel it in yet. There's a girl in there, but she'll be out in about 10 minutes. I said, "Fine." So we're sitting there, and this guy comes flying into the room. And he goes, "TJ, I'm Nick Gimma. I am the CEO here." He goes, "Look at this. This is the moose I shot in Idaho with my longbow and wood arrow."
Yes.
I've been a long-time subscriber. He's in his 60s. And and he's, he called me that whole week, wanted me to talk to his CFO about getting the discount or finding out what the would cost me for this, to have them do it. He said, "We can do the surgery in 24 hours. So she never did call me. Finally, he calls me on Friday. Yeah, at 5:00 in the afternoon. He says, "Did you ever get a hold of my CFO?" I said, "No, she won't return phone calls. The number I got, she's in Northern Idaho." And so he goes, and I told him about Dr. Lynch. He says, "Well, Joe's a good friend of mine. He's the best surgeon. He's the guy I wanted. He only does elbows and shoulders. And he's the number one shoulder surgeon in this state, as far as I'm concerned." And so he was the number one guy I wanted. Thankfully, he was in network, but his company and the hospital are not. So he says, this was on a Friday. He says, "Well, listen," he says, "I'll call him Monday and see if I can get you in to see him." I said, "Yeah, okay, good luck with that."
Yeah.
So he calls me at noon. He says, "Joe will see you at any time this afternoon, 2:30 or 3. I go, "Really?" He says, "They're going to call you next." And the phone rang. And it's them. And so I was in there. I went to see him. He's looking at my stuff like that. He says, "Oh my God, they missed," because we're looking at the radiology. He said, "Well, they missed this bicep issue, which is major." And he said they didn't even discuss that. And he found another tear later, lower down in the tendon. So I asked him, I said, "What's the options? Will it repair itself?" He goes, "Absolutely not." I said, "Okay." I said, "So surgery is it?" He goes, "Yes." I said, "Can you fix me?" He goes, 100%.
Nice.
I said, "Book it. Let's go." So it went, but he only does surgery on Thursdays. So it was still 4 weeks out to get the surgery. So I got it done. It was easy. And then he called me 24 hours later, after I got out of surgery. And he says, "Look," he says, "TJ," he says, "It's a good thing that you had your surgery. You pushed it." And I said, "Pushed it?" It was 8 months to get to where you could cut on me. He said, "Your bicep almost was about ready to burst." He said, "If that would happen," he said, "that would have been major surgeries, and you may have lost some use of your arm." He said, "We fixed it, and you'll be fine."
Oh man.
And so
you almost were done. What would you have done if you no shoulder? Are you using the mouth tab? Or are you switching to do I see a crossbow in your future?
No,
No.
I don't think so. No, I probably I just want to get it back to where I could surf. That's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Adelaide. No, I thought about switching arms.
Yeah.
But I'd still be able to shoot now. And that's the strange thing is shooting the bow was the only thing that didn't hurt.
Really?
this whole last 2 years. That's the only thing I could do. That I couldn't lift anything. I couldn't throw a rock for the dogs, or a ball for the dog, or he'd throw anything. It hurt so damn bad. I throw it and I'd just be in tears. Everything hurt. And now I was up in Alaska here fishing with some friends last couple of weeks, and we did really good. We think we got about 600 pounds of filleted fish out of that group for 10 of us. And so, but I'm up there and I was hauling in halibut. I hauled in my 2 alive king salmon and caught tons of rockfish. And it was a lot of fun. And, so it's like I'm shooting a bow again. And then this happens. It's like, damn it, I'm getting back. But that was the only thing I could do, was shoot a bow. So a year ago in February, I was down in Texas with my friends, shot my 2 javelina, no pain except for I couldn't lift with that arm, so I'm carrying the damn thing in one hand, strapped around here. And so I'm still an invalid for the last couple of years. And then in August, I went down and was bow fishing in Lake Okeechobee with a bunch of friends, and ended up shooting a 9.5-foot alligator, 9.6-foot alligator with my longbow, which is being mounted into a coffee table.
Oh, that's very cool.
It should be here by the end of next month. So it's been a long pull. But we had fun. We shot armored catfish. I shot a giant tilapia, which is ridiculously, it's in this latest or last issue. And then a mullet that must have been 3 pounds. I've never seen a mullet that big. No one had. We took the photo into these guys. They go, oh my God, we've never seen mullets out here. And
that's funny.
They're bow fishing guys. So I did that, and then everything was fine. And then I went out. I got out for one day and I had someone watching robin. September, the last day of antelope season. I just went out and did some stalking. I saw 1 buck, and that was it. And that was my day. And then the last day of the late archery season is the 30th of November here on our ranch area. And so I went up the foothills. I thought I'm just going to go out for a day. Robin was fine at that time. So I go up there. I'm into 160, 170 elk.
Really?
My elk tag's not good in unit 39. It was for another zone.
Yeah.
So but my deer tag was good. I didn't see one stinking deer. I saw a lot of idiots on ATVs going through posted gates, and it's a mess, and I finally just got disillusioned with it, and I left. And that was my hunting season last year, and I didn't want to lose it again, but I'm going to lose some of it this year again. So.
Well, you'll hopefully make up a little ground when you can hunt.
Yeah, well, we had, I was going to head up north and spend a couple weeks hunting bear and turkey, and then do some steelhead fishing this spring. And that was thrown out the door with the surgery, but I had to get it done.
Yeah.
Now I can toss a fly. I'm doing okay. So now I'm getting better, and now I'm going to have a hernia surgery. It's like, what else can go wrong?
Just keep adding them on. Holy cow. Well, that's awesome. That's an interesting story, especially to see, how the magazine began and where it is today. And, it's online, it's in print. And it's funny, one of the things that prompted me to call and get a hold of you, I was camping. This was actually a while back, a couple of years ago in Yellowstone. And I see this 8-year-old kid sitting and reading a traditional bow hunting magazine.
Good.
I'm like,
bringing him up young.
I was like, I got to let him know, because that's what you want. You want him to start small. And his parents didn't. I went up to him and I talked to him. I asked him about it, because you just don't see that very much. Random, So anytime I see any bow hunter, I end up talking to him. But he's like, yeah, we don't hunt. My son just really wanted to get into archery, so we went into the archery shop and got him some, bow equipment and got him a magazine. So he was digging into it. So good to see a kid getting into it.
Well, it's I've been asked several times, we're living in strange times. And like I said, the internet, everyone's got a short attention span, and we're trying to bring in more women and more younger. Hey, when I started this magazine, I was 30-something years old.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 65 this year. So it's like, I asked Robin, I said, how the hell did I get this old? She goes, well, you didn't die.
You didn't die yet. Yeah, that's right.
I didn't die. So I get up every morning. I thank God for opening up my eyes and having more breaths. So, it's all good. And I enjoy what I do. It's still a job.
Yeah.
And it's, no one's getting rich, but it's a good living. Mainly, I don't make any money off the magazine. I don't take anything, but my employees are paid very well. My contractors are paid very well. And so we're still, we were losing money for several years after Larry passed away because the market was crashing, and
Hmm.
we finally got back to being profitable, and we're seeing a good return again. We're seeing growth, which is good. First
Yeah.
time since about 84, or excuse me, 2014.
Yeah.
We're seeing good growth, and which is great. And we're, like you say, we're seeing more and more young people get involved, or at least asking questions, and that's a good thing.
That's a big
because,
deal. Yep.
well, mentoring is the number one thing we can do to see the growth. And I remember years ago, the Pope and Young Club did a huge study on bow hunters,
Yeah.
and at that time, out of all the bow hunters, which are, I don't know how many tens of millions there are, 17% were traditional. That's a pretty big market.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very big market, and I think that you're seeing a lot more of that because there's some people they are using both bows, or they're going back. Even Mr. James now, he's back to shooting his recurve an awful lot, and he went from recurve to compound, and then he's always liked it. So he's posting pictures of him with some big whitetails he's killed in the last few years with his recurve, and it's great.
Yeah.
Marion James, who owns Bowhunter, he's a really good friend of mine. I've known him for probably, I don't know, 35 years, something like that. And we've worked together, and we're both on the board of the Archery Hall of Fame here in the United States.
Yeah, that's
along with some other great guys.
I think we've seen a little bit of a growth, or at least an interest of it, just by how many people reach out to us to ask questions about it. And I wonder if social media, just to see a recurve or a longbow, especially a wooden one, in a picture, it's like very romantical. It's like you see it and you're like, I want to go do that. And I think social media actually helps traditional archery in that way.
It does. It's unfortunate that sometimes we're living in a bubble,
Right.
In some aspects, but social media is allowing us to reach some other people. I hate dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's time consuming, and like you say, it's a lot of times there's so much crap out there on the internet.
Oh yeah, so much.
And it's like, I remember when the start, I said, no, I'm not going to go online. I don't want to email and blah, blah, blah. Just like, now you can't live without them. One thing that I hate is this little cell phone thing.
It controls a lot of your life these days.
You know what happened? When we were up fishing in Alaska here a couple weeks ago, we do it every year. A friend of mine owns Homer Ocean Charters. He's got a big 60-foot yacht that he does the blacktail hunting off Kodiak Island off his boat. He does bear hunting in the spring, but fishing is a big part of what they do. And so we do this every year. So it's for my friends, writers, advertisers, and then we get together, and then and it's him and his son, and then we have usually one spot that's a rotating person.
Yeah.
So there's 10 of us that go out, and we spend 5 nights, 6 nights on the yacht. We go out to sea, but it was funny because everything's working fine on the phone, and we get to Soldovia, and we get inside that cove, and the weather's terrible for 2 days. We're weathered in there, so we tried to fish, didn't catch anything. It was just seas were pushing 8-10 feet. And so we're pretty much locked inside there. We're going out, but we're coming back and staying in that little cove. But I was able to get online internet from the bar where all the other guys were up there getting shit-faced. I stayed down I had a drink and smoked a cigar on the bow of the boat. I enjoyed myself for the evening.
Like a gentleman, and yeah.
I've been doing the bar scene. I don't need to do that
Yeah.
anymore. So it's too expensive, but that's another story. But anyway, so I'm sitting down there, and then we go out to sea, and so I'm on airplane mode, so I can take pictures and all that stuff. When we come back into Homer, I have no service. I can't get Wi-Fi. Everybody else has got the Verizon. They've got service. Nothing on my phone. Nothing is working at all for 2 days. And I realized my tickets are on here.
Oh,
my
to get out.
to get out of here. So. Yeah, so and unfortunately what happened is that I still had an email that my wife had sent me, my itinerary, so that would pull up, at least I knew what the numbers, and I could get something. So what happened is that, we get on the fly out of Homer the 2 days after we get back, and I just leave it on because it's not working, right? So I leave on my phone, and we get up, just climbing up. It's a 35-40 minute flight to Anchorage from Homer. And all of a sudden, my phone starts tripping. I'm looking at it. Pretty soon, texts are rolling in.
Yeah.
Then emails are rolling in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's working again. I go,
it was nice when it wasn't working.
well, it was weird. You realize how much we depend on these stupid things.
Yeah.
And we do. I think we rely on, because this thing here, this is a hell of a computer.
Yeah.
And it also makes phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
but
right.
It does everything. I trade stocks. I could, make doctor's appointments, ordered my drugs or whatever. You know, you can do anything on that thing and still make phone calls, but you realize it's it's actually become too important. I mean, look at the kids today. Everybody, even adults, I see this stuff all the time.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Everybody's looking in the phone and they're not talking to each other. I go to a restaurant, couples never talk to each other. They're playing with each of them playing with their phones. It's like, what have we become? Just mind numb fools? And
Yeah.
it's like, and I understand technology is the way to go, but there's sometimes like, well, I always shut off my ringer,
Yeah.
and I never ever call anybody back because I don't have a landline anymore. But when they call my office, it comes to this phone. But I never ever make the mistake anymore of not shutting off my caller ID, because I've called some people back on this doing business calls. They get my phone number and they'll call 2-3 times a week and just want to BS. It's like, guys, I am working.
I know.
I don't have time for this. Okay, I love you, but
Yeah.
you have to give me some space. So,
Well,
but
the
it is.
moral of the story is put down the phone, pick up a traditional bow, preferably a longbow.
Go out and shoot. Well,
That's
you know,
right.
it's
Get
you know,
outside.
it's like, you know, it's funny you bring this up because you know, Luke Johnson, Northern Idaho.
Mhm.
Well, he mentioned something. He said, you know, that he brings people that they hate the word traditional and it's just bow hunting. And it's really strange because when I started the magazine, I was trying to figure out, well, how do we differentiate ourselves? Well, everyone was calling modern. They were calling it modern bow hunting, is what everything the compound
see.
people were. And, you know, and I shot a compound. We have no animosity. The thing was, we were not getting any representation in any of the magazines out there for anything traditional. I mean, there's nothing, you know, the history was disappearing. And that was the main thing, is that we wanted to keep a lot of this history alive and some of this other stuff, and then just show the fun, the pure joy of just going out in the woods. Doesn't matter if you're going to kill anything, but going out in the woods with a wood bow, you know, and a wood arrow. I mean, and it's,
Go try to
you know what
sneak
it's
really
like.
close to something
It's
that's
hard,
really hard to
it's
do.
really- it's hard to explain that to somebody as to why, you know, yeah. If, believe me, if I was a gun hunter, everything would be dead in the world. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I remember when I drew my first goat permit in Washington. It was 15 years here in Idaho. I didn't draw. 5 years in Washington State before I drew, coveted of one of 6 tags. And so I had a brand new longbow that didn't show up until the night before I was to go on my first trip in. Never even shot it. I took it out, shot it a bunch that night. I said, okay, that's it. So I'm going up there and everyone says, you're taking a gun, aren't you? I said, why? Well, you know, that's a rare once in a lifetime possibility. I said, if I shot it with a gun, it wouldn't mean anything to me. I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing against gun hunting at all. And in fact, I don't mind doing that. I'm thinking seriously about picking up one of these leftover, you know, cow elk tag or cow moose tags. Just go shoot one for meat.
Yeah.
But you know, it wouldn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things to me, because I want to do it my way. I want it to be tough. I want it to, you know, I don't know. It's just
It's
I
the
guess
way
I'm
that
weird.
and not everybody chooses it, and that's fine. But I know what you mean. You pick a way the way that you want it to work, and the way that you've kind of dedicated your skills to, and it just doesn't feel the same to do it another way.
Well, no, and it's it's kind of a personal quest, and it's like, you know, I'm not out there to shoot the biggest anything. In fact, I'm a trophy hunter until the first legal animal gets in the way.
Right.
So this is probably why, you know, my biggest elk's probably a 5x5, because I shoot a ton of cows and smaller ones, because I want to put an elk in the freezer every year because it's a tremendously fine eating animal.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorites next to caribou and wild pigs. They're all good eating, but so it's like, but like I said, it's like I've been lucky enough to shoot some awful big animals.
Yeah.
And it's only because the opportunity presented itself. I didn't hold out. I didn't, you know, go out there with that in my mind, is to shoot this, you know, this number 6 mountain caribou back here, or number 12, you know, Canada moose that's in the museum. Actually, it's being delivered back here now, this next month or September. You know, it happened, and it was just, it's a blessing. But that's not what
Yeah, you're
wasn't holding out.
hungrier than you are interested in headgear.
Well, you know, I just want the process is more important to me than the end result. So if I don't kill anything, that's fine. If I had a good hunt and I saw some animals and just to get out in the woods, you know, and like when I take my daughter, we sit down, we'll make a cup of coffee or have lunch in some deep, nasty white, you know, or a big wet forest someplace,
Yep.
laying in a huckleberry patch. That is that makes up for anything. I
Yeah.
don't need to bring. I don't have to kill anything, and so I think that that's what you try and propel when we say traditional is that it's just realizing that it's to make it if you want the challenge, it's there. You don't have to accept it.
Yep.
And I always felt, like I call it a timeline. Down here, it's like you want to kill something right off the bat. You're new and you're young, you got to kill something. I don't care if it's a fish or you, like my father took me out and put me on his shoulder and was shooting rabbits, and I'm holding on to it, like dad goes bang, he's holding up
Right.
these dead rabbits. I want to kill a rabbit, So you kill stuff. So you say you start off with a gun, and then pretty soon you want to try something different. It could be a compound, it could be a muzzle loader, and you go down to maybe some people are out there hunting with spears and knives. Okay?
Sure.
Eventually you come back down this timeline until you find where you are comfortable in your hunting at that time. And you may stay there. You may wander back and forth. You may go to the extremes, but you found this little niche right here
your
in
thing.
this timeline. And so, that's important is that to you to experience that and where you stay, that's, I don't, there is none of this us versus them crap. And I keep hearing this by some people that keep trying to push this. I say the difference between traditional and modern is only the equipment used. It's not a mentality.
Right.
We all have the same ethics. Well, we should. Most people do. And we still have the same dreams and aspirations. We're just going at it a different way.
Right.
And I have a good friend, two good friends, that they switched back to compound because they just were missing and they lost it. And I understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. I haven't, a total respect. Good friends, and I'll share camp, and we're, we go bow fishing all the time together.
Yeah.
And that's whatever they are, and they're always welcome in my camp. So I don't see this animosity. I think it pretty much in the beginning we were always badmouthed, like all you do guys is wound stuff. I go, the data do not support that. I go look at several of these studies. In fact, the best one's in McAllister, which is bow hunting only and traditional, if I'm correct, in Oklahoma. And it's a federal installation, and there's only so many people are allowed to deer hunt it. And they had, I think it's just bow hunting only, it's not traditional. But they found out that the traditional people had the lowest wounding rates, mainly because they don't take those long shots. They follow up on them, they'll take their time.
Yeah.
And we're, a lot of people, they still have the, like the Chuck Adams mentality, because he can punch things at 80 to 100 yards. So not everybody can do that.
No, he's a bit unique in that way.
Yeah. But even then, you can same thing. Say there's an elk out there. Elk's a big animal, and it's sitting there, say it's feeding. You release that arrow, and in a second and a half, it can take a step. You've gut shot it.
Yeah.
Far,
it's not the same.
So I think that's probably part of the reason why that study showed that there was less wounding loss with traditionals, because they take shorter shots.
Yep.
They follow up more than anybody else. They know where they shot the arrow at. And that's what they were finding out, is that when they were talking to them, the shot distances were like twice as much. The compound guys were shooting twice as far because they could. They had the ability.
Yep.
And but they also weren't sure they shot. And a lot of them, and some of the wounding loss, they weren't sure. And but that was one of the best studies I saw. But that's not here nor there. But I'm just saying that this thing saying that one or the other loses more. Anyone who says they never lost an animal is a liar, or they never really.
Oh no, you're gonna lose them, and I mean,
it happens.
Switching to traditional will be challenging for people with compounds, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're all kind of encouraging, the fair chase, good hunting ethics out there, and so.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and just have fun. Exactly. We're all kind of doing the same thing, and just really, I mean, you spend 99% of your time hunting just hanging out outside, not actually shooting anything. So you better, get comfortable with that and get used to it. So, hey, we're coming up on time here.
Okay.
TJ, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us your story and tell us a little bit about the background of your magazine. For people who want to subscribe or want to see you online, where can they go?
You can go to traditionalbowhunter.com or tradbow.com, either one, TRADBOW. We own both of them. So, but if you can get the website, that's the best way to do it. Reach us. You can go see what's on the website, mess around. I don't think we have chat forums anymore. There might be some minor ones. Those are nightmares, believe me. There's too many people doing those. So, but there's a lot of stuff going on there. We have unique stories, a lot of how-tos. There's a lot of good information on our website. merchandise and things like that, but also a way to subscribe. And maybe they just want to do digital issues. That's a lot cheaper just to see what it's like. Um, and I'm always available. Anybody can always contact me. My email's in every magazine, and I do answer them as long as I'm around.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm gone, but yeah. So, anyways, that's the best place to find us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
James, thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun, and shoot straight, brother.
You too. Thanks.